Thank you for staying with us. It's Journalist Hangout on Sunday, and I still have the Maestro in the studio, Babajide Kolade, Otitoju, and CKN. CKN, I'm really used to this this new name, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I've not gotten used to it.
Same here.
It's always this Muhammadu Buhari. But I'm getting used to President Bola Tinubu.
You know, I was listening to somebody, and there was an obedient, very big obedient. So when he was talking, and he said, the president, I noticed that he repeated the president like 3 times. Oh, he's sinking in. He's gradually sinking in, you know. And you see, look at Bode George, setting conditions for peace.
With the president.
The man there is not even bothered. You are the one who said you will
lost all the elections.
You said you will leave. You said you will leave Nigeria. All of them who said they will leave Nigeria, I'm looking at them with my koro eyes.
Former deputy governor.
They have all refused to leave. They have all refused to leave. When they were boasting that they will leave, when they were boasting that they would leave, they thought he would not win. It wasn't,
yes, it was easy.
They didn't say it with conviction.
Yes.
They didn't say it with conviction.
Because
they
know
thought
that
he would not win. So the moment he now won, he dawned on the sister Jim Aloma for Aboni. You are going nowhere.
Let's go to our next one. All right. It appears organized labor has drawn a battle line with the federal government over the vexed issue of fuel subsidy removal. All that is left is who crossed the line first to avoid or trigger a nationwide strike. The Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has written to its 43 affiliate unions to mobilize for a scheduled industrial action on Wednesday, the 7th of June, following the hike in pump price of premium motor spirits, popularly called petrol. While the decision of the fuel subsidy received backing from the NNPC and the head of the representatives, organized labor insists that the president cannot unilaterally do so. Let's share some updates on the issue with you.
The Nigeria Labour Congress is squaring up for a showdown with the federal government over the recent increase in the pump price of petrol in the wake of President Bola Tinubu's declaration of an end to fuel subsidy regime in his inaugural speech. Queues resurfaced at gas stations.
In a struggle for Nigeria.
The new price regime of petrol is the sole agenda of this NLC's National Executive Council meeting. Human rights lawyer and NLC's counsel comes visiting. After about 4 hours without the media, the Congress arrived at some action plans. NLC says the reversal of the hike is a precondition for further talks with the government.
The NLC decided that if by Wednesday next week that the NNPC, a private limited liability company that illegally announced a price regime in the oil sector, refuses to revert itself for negotiation to continue, that the Nigerian Labour Congress and all its affiliates will withdraw their services and commence protests nationwide.
If you have no power to carry out an action and you do so, then it's illegal. And we are challenging NNPC. Let us know the law that allows you to jack up the prices of petroleum products in Nigeria. It's going to be legal and political.
Elsewhere, the Trade Union Congress also holds an emergency National Executive Council meeting on the same subject matter.
Discussions should continue while we demand that government should reverse back to status quo ante. In
the midst of the controversy generated by the hike in the price of petrol, this Abuja resident agrees with the government on the removal of subsidy.
The issue of subsidy has been well debated, and I think Nigeria, most Nigerians have come to terms that it's something that had to be done.
It is a moment of decision for the two leading labor centers in Nigeria, and how well the two organizations manage the situation at hand will determine the effectiveness of their strategy. Joke Edsa, TVC News, Abuja.
This is going to be the first test for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Wednesday, Joe Ajero led the Nigerian Labour Congress with its affiliate, 43, its affiliate, coming out to say no to the removal of fuel subsidy.
Yeah, I think that no matter what Labour thinks, the good health of Nigeria is more important than anything. It is inevitable that we will slip into bankruptcy if we continue. The signs are there, and we are not blind. A country spending 96% of its earnings of its receipts on debt servicing. Is that not a country that is heading for bankruptcy? A country that spent in the first quarter of last year, spent 118% of what it earned on debt servicing in the first quarter. If you do not see that as a dangerous sign, I wonder what it is. Now, if we were to sustain subsidy in 2023, we would spend 6 trillion on fuel subsidy. And a good number of us are not convinced that this thing is not a big scam. Peter Obi described it as organized crime and said that one of the first things he would do immediately if he got elected is to stop it.
You know, some Nigerians are opposed to this.
Because some people will oppose something. There are people
not that they don't understand.
There are people who want only to see palliatives before they can support the idea.
Yes.
There are people who want to see salaries increased so that it can mitigate the pains. The pains, we can't hide the fact that the pains will come.
How many people would that be reaching out to?
I support, you see, there are different ways. If electricity were to improve, for example, like in my house now, electricity has improved
tremendously
in my house. So what that means is that what I was spending on petrol
dropped.
The generator to fuel my generators would go down. And I've even told my wife, I said, money that I give you to buy fuel, I'm slashing it. This is 500 naira per liter era, not 189. So when they bring light, you must get up and go and
switch over immediately. Don't waste time.
No time, no story. So this is the thing. That is, if electricity improves, my burden will reduce. If you flood our states with commuter buses, the burden will also reduce.
Kind of palliative.
So those are like palliative. Then Ashwaju has also spoken about the need for salary increase, minimum wage. We have to. He told those doctors that it has to reflect reality. So I believe that, you know, that will not be difficult, because in the past there were occasions when NNPC was not remitting anything. They will say they've used it to pay
for subsidy.
So
yes,
now states will earn more.
Federal government,
because whatever they sell, whatever they sell now, they will be able to contribute a lot more to the federation account. So states will be able to find more money to do these palliatives, as well as also increase salary of workers. So for me, the subsidy has to go, because we will save at least 10 trillion in a year.
A lot of people believe that for his maiden speech to say no more subsidy, subsidy should be removed, and that that will inflict pains, and that is not a very good welcome
I think we need to make something clear. You know, Asiwaju didn't remove subsidy. Buhari removed subsidy, but many Nigerians don't know.
Of course.
And he was trying to explain that, look, in the handover notes.
Some people are even saying that January to June, that, you know, it's January to June, and we can reveal to Nigerians that June does not have cash back
end of June.
Yeah, it doesn't even have cash back in the budget.
Yes.
Yes. First and foremost, the concession is that subsidy has been paid up to June. As I said, the impression has been that subsidy has been paid.
That's the impression, not reality.
The fact is, what we have the government told Nigerians whether subsidy was paid till June or not. That's the no. It's a communication.
Yes.
That's a communication problem.
Yes.
If you understand what I'm saying,
yes.
That is a communication problem. What we are looking at is a communication problem. The press, don't forget that this subsidy would have been removed, I think, around March or so. After. Yes. You now see the government say, oh, they are going to leave it.
They didn't want to remove it during this.
I know now. I'm telling you that the issue is that probably the way it was communicated to Nigerians was the problem.
Was it communicated at all?
No, it was communicated. Let me tell you, the president, yes, at the speech.
He just said subsidy is gone. It's a policy issue.
No. BK, just a second. Let us get something clear. This is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria talking.
Yes.
It is no longer a presidential candidate.
He was reminding you people.
Okay. Let's quickly. Our guest is just waiting for us. Joining us via Zoom for more discussion on this is an economics and CEO of Diary Hills Limited, Kelvin Emmanuel. Thank you for staying with us, Kelvin. Hello, Kelvin. Kelvin, are you there? I think my producer will be working to get Kelvin, but they told me Kelvin was there earlier. Hello, Kelvin. Can you hear me, Kelvin? Okay, Sikian, let me come back to you. Your explanation.
Yes, I'm saying that any policy statement made by president has a ripple effect.
Yes, it's all the power.
Whether we like it or not. The president said subsidy is gone.
Yes.
And in the mind of Nigeria, that same moment he stated it, it is gone. And that is why people that have fuel, petroleum, stock.
Wicked Nigerians that bought it
for
subsidized amount, started ordering it, and the next day,
you understand what I mean? Quickly switch this thing. Even the NMP, who PC that become a player, came out with information and changed the prices. So that is where the issue is. But let me tell you.
I don't know where that, there was a meeting with the president.
Yes.
After that meeting, we saw the price.
So, and that was it. But
perhaps they just felt, look, what are we waiting for?
But let me
just do it.
Yes, but
do it
let me say this, AY. It's nothing new. We are used to this. This is how it works. The prices of fuel will be increased to a particular point astronomically. Labor will kick. They'll be invited to meeting. They will agree on a price. There will be a price discussion.
This is different.
Wait,
once subsidy is gone, they will not negotiate.
I don't think government will want.
This is different.
Wait, let me.
This government does not even have the capacity.
No, I'm telling you.
Continue to pay.
Why? Are you saying that the price of petroleum is about 300% over above what are these things? Because we are looking at from 180. How much are we paying for subsidy?
We have to get the landing
cost. That is how it has to be. That is the landing cost. That is
it's
what Nigerians have not been told. It's the landing cost. So are you saying the landing cost is close to over 300%? So that is why we're, or 200%, that's why we're paying from 189
well, yes,
to 500.
They told us.
Earlier.
Let me,
it depends. If we even go to 700.
Yes.
Depending
international
on the
international price.
Market price.
It goes up.
But look at it before that. The petroleum, the Dangote refinery is coming on stream. Most people believe that it will be cheaper, but I'm saying that it's not going to be cheaper. No, I'm just saying that it's not going to be cheaper.
Because government will not sell crude oil to Dangote.
Not even subsidy. There will even not be subsidy.
Okay, Kelvin is with us now. Thank you for staying with us, Kelvin.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you today?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We want to hear
Yes,
your own your take on the
Removal of
the
subsidy.
exit of the subsidy regime.
Well, thank you. Very important question. I think there are three major things the president needs to do. Very painful decisions that should have been taken a long time ago. In 2012, Nigeria missed out on the opportunity to do it. Number one, removal of petrol subsidy. I'm 100% in support of it. Number two, removal of FX subsidy.
Yeah.
Float the naira and align the curve.
Yeah.
Number three, removal of power subsidy.
Yeah.
These three subsidies cost Nigeria 8 trillion naira a year. FX subsidy costs Nigeria 270 billion naira a month. The government has deficit in its budget. It's supposed to borrow 7.5 trillion to fund 2023 budget. It cannot borrow the money because your credit rating is junk. Moody's has it as CA1. It's junk, not prime. It's junk status. Fitch has it at B minus. When Fitch started rating Nigeria, the first rating they gave Nigeria was BA3. It's dropped four levels to B minus. Moody's has also dropped 4 levels, if I'm not mistaken. You can't borrow money from the Eurobonds market. No bilateral partner, Japan, Germany, China, is willing to give Nigeria money, the US, to fund 7.5 trillion naira in deficit for the 2023 budget. The ways and means is a no-go area because you've securitized $51 billion in outstanding loans. And if you continue to borrow, and the reason, by the way, why CRR, or cash reserve ratio, is at 2.5% is because the central bank governor is basically taking cash from the banking system and giving it to the federal government. Where is the cash, extra cash, going to come from? Is the governor going to raise CRR to 40% or 45%, both the non-discretionary and discretionary, and say, okay, you're going to continue taking cash from the banking system to borrow the federal government at 18.5% plus 3, which is 21.5%, and then continue to plunge the economy into inflation? Because you see that the correlation between ways and means and your exchange rates, and the correlation between your exchange rate and foreign demand-induced inflation is the reason why even the MPRO hike has no impact on tightening monetary policy and bringing inflation back down to normal levels. So in my opinion, I believe it's time. We're overdue. It's late, but like the Chinese say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. The removal of petrol subsidy is the right decision. And the shock therapy of the president announcing it at inauguration day and not giving the cabal that is fighting against the removal and that is benefiting from it trillions of naira, and not giving unscrupulous elements the opportunity to sabotage it like they did in 2012, is the right decision. It's shock therapy. We will adjust. And the government is going to put palliatives in place to ensure that Nigerians don't suffer for it.
All right.
What palliatives are you looking at? Because
First of all, there are targeted palliatives that the government can put in place. Okay? You can set up CNG buses. You can set up CNG buses. You can give single-digit loans without a need for collateral to transport companies. You can have companies that are also interested in building CNG model on data stations with compression kits. So you don't run on fuel, because the price of standard cubic meter of natural gas in Nigeria, depending on the location, ranges from between 180 and 270 naira by SCM, and it's almost equivalent to a liter of diesel or fuel. CNG is 41% the cost of fuel, 30% the cost of diesel. You can link Nigerians that are elderly and young, under 18, above 60, into a system where they get free transport rights if they're above 60 and under 18. Those are palliatives that are better than, for example, the plan of the former Minister of Finance to borrow $800 million from the World Bank and give conditional cash transfer of 10,000 naira every month. You can use that $800 million and set up targeted intervention in the transport sector to ameliorate the suffering of the people, while the president moves very quickly to increase, to try to solve the bottlenecks around power generation, transmission, and distribution in Nigeria.
Okay, how about the suggested increase in of the minimum wage?
Okay, so the problem with the minimum wage is this: number one, even if you increase the minimum wage and say you're raising it to 45,000 a month, it doesn't impact on the private sector, and I'll tell you why it doesn't impact on the private sector. There is an issue in the private sector with casualization, employee casualization. You have manufacturing companies, you have banks, you have a lot of people who employ staffs. They don't pay them standard wages. They're not protected by National Minimum Wage Act of 2019. There are laborers who earn 20,000 a month. There are security guards who earn 15,000, 20,000 a month. And there is nothing that says, look, you know what? There is a law in Nigeria. If you employ someone, after 6 months, it becomes criminal for you not to confirm the person with permanent benefits and standardize their wages. So you see that the increase of minimum wage only favors government workers. It doesn't favor millions of Nigerians in the private sector. So for you to make it effective, I am in support of increasing minimum wage. If the government can raise it to 60,000, they should, but that would be a stretch. They can start to raising it to 45,000 and gradually increase. The government needs to pass an accelerated legislation in National Assembly of employee casualization that will criminalize companies using third parties to recruit people as a way to ensure that their contracts
yes, they outsource this thing. Yes. Now,
yes, let me, sorry. Yes, I've listened to your analysis, which still depends on importation-based petrol product. And my question is, we are not talking about building refineries or reviving our existing refineries. We import close to almost 90-95% of our petroleum product, which is why we're having the high cost of petroleum product. So my question is, what can we do to be able to sustain this when we know that our refineries are not working? The one in Kaduna, the one in Port Harcourt, the one in Warri, and also the one in Kaduna. None of them is working, and which means that we continue importing. So if you have to advise the government, what is the long-term and short-term solution to this problem? Do we continue importing, or do we find a way of building new refineries and also maintaining the ones that we have so that we can refine locally?
So that's a question for me, yes?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, so I'll tell you this. The turnaround maintenance money that the National Assembly says has amounted to about 11.5 trillion in the last maybe 15 or 20 years has gone down the drain. I don't believe that the government-owned refineries, any of the four of them, is going to be able to come back to functionality. They cannot revive those refineries. The first refinery was built by Shell in 1965, if I'm not mistaken. The government took it over, and the story goes. Look, it's time for the government to realize that it doesn't have any business doing business.
Yes.
And the sooner it realizes that some of these companies that are involved in the direct sale, direct purchase program are companies that it can actually empower to build commercial-sized refineries to compete with Dangote, the better for it. The Dangote refinery has come to stay. It's going to start production first week in August of 2023. At full capacity, Dangote can do between 48 and 53 million liters of PMS daily. It can do about 25 million liters of AGO. It can do about 9 million liters of Jet A1 and automotive turbine kerosene, ATK, and several other non-transportation fuels. So, for me, I don't see the government doubling down. Look, those four refineries that are not functional, they cost the government about 100 billion naira in compensation costs and pension benefits to staffs. If you check the NNPC balance sheet, you'll see it. For me, it's time for them to sell it off as scraps, strip it off, sell it off as scraps, and focus on, for example, BUA is doing the background work, is doing engineering designs, and is getting all these approvals for his planned 200,000 barrel refinery in Akwa Ibom. He needs the Baka Deep Seaport to be functional for him to build and get it to the finish line. NNPC should invest in him and support him like they supported Dangote towards the tail end of Dangote finishing his refinery. Government has no business doing business. It has no business doing business. if you're going to go to giving licenses to members of IPMAN and MOMAN to bring in PMS, you need to realize that, number one, there's a 27% handling charge for landing PMS in Nigeria. That is going to be factored into the cost. You need to realize that if you're also planning to unify the exchange rate and have everybody go to one single window to source for FX, and then there's a 27% handling charge, you're going for PMS per liter somewhere around 700 and 800 naira per liter. So the reality on the ground is that Dangote at full capacity can solve Nigeria's PMS demand on a daily basis, but it needs competitors.
Okay. Now, what do you have to say in respect of the NLC's desire to embark on a strike from Wednesday?
I don't support the NLC's decision to embark on a strike. Their decision in January or February of 2012 was misguided, and it's partly why we're where we are today. This is like a repeat of what they did 11 years ago. It's time for NLC to realize that everything is not nailed for them to use their hammer to hit, and picketing is not the solution to this problem. There are technical solutions to the problem. I expect NLC to sit down with the federal government and have them, go through constructive arguments. Number one, reduce the size of governors. Say that a condition on which we're going to not picket and not strike is that you cut down the size of government. How do you do that? You implement the Stephen Orasani report. It's the most comprehensive report for public sector reforms in Nigeria that we've had since 2010. Implement that report. It's going to cut down the size of governments, because you're going to see like a merger and acquisition of so many MDAs that are not necessary and that will shrink the budget for running the government. Number two, NLC has to understand that raising the minimum wage is important, but like I said earlier, you need to pay attention to the benefit of the people in the private sector by implementing employee casualization. Everything is not strike. Them going on strike and shutting down the country, especially in essential services sector and sectors that fall under Essential Services Act, is not going to solve anything. The government also cannot go back to the old price, because Nigerian government today borrows 600 billion naira monthly to pay PMS subsidy. 600 billion. The government cannot afford it. If the government continues on the path that is currently on, Nigerian government is going to default on its debt within 24 months. 24 months. And the government is going to have to go to the central bank.
Do you see a correlation between what we are passing through or what we are approaching and what Greece was going through at some point before things came to a head?
Well, the situation in Greece, Greece was owing about $500 billion. Nigeria is currently owing $171 billion. I think Nigeria's debt load is external and internal. Is about 30% of what Greece had. But you can see similarities. And the reason why you can see similarities is because Nigeria's country risk premium is currently at 16%. It's gone up from 9% to 16%. And that's because your credit rating is low. That's because the tendency of the government defaulting on its debt is high. Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio is currently about 34.5%. Nigeria is using 96.30% of revenues to service debts, which is insane. Which is insane. Is a cause for alarm, and it's a state of emergency. People who don't understand that this is where the country is, advocating that the government continues to borrow money to spend, like flushing down the drain and paying for PMS subsidy. Nigeria has one of the cheapest petrol prices in the world. In Zimbabwe, the price of a liter of PMS is $1.50. In Ghana, the price of a liter of PMS is $1.30. In Cote d'Ivoire, in Benin Republic, Nigeria has the cheapest PMS price in sub-Saharan Africa. If the people are asking for the government to focus more money on healthcare, agriculture, defense, education, the people also have to understand that PMS subsidy is taking 32.5% of the money that is supposed to be redistributed to all these other critical sectors of the economy. And if we don't stop this bleeding, we're going to go to what Sri Lanka had, to what Lebanon had, to what Greece had, and to what Ghana just experienced last year.
I want to thank you, Kelvin, Emmanuel. Thank you for that intervention. Wow.
Thank you for having me.
And finally,